This is the S.B.R. podcast with your host, Brian McDonough. And today on the fourth episode of the S.B.R. podcast, we will be sitting down with James Santore, Chief of Staff at 76 Capital. James and I will be discussing how 76 Capital, an emerging Philly-based venture capital firm, has launched a viable platform for executives, influencers, and professional athletes. We'll further be discussing eSports, sports betting, and sports tech, all relevant spaces to 76 Capital and some of the more interesting topics in today's sports business landscape. James, I'm so glad that you're able to spend some time with the S.B.R. podcast community today. Before we get started, man, how have you been?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here and excited to kind of share what we're doing at 76 Capital to help change the world of business through sports.
And, we're really excited to have you on the show today because, this podcast being based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 76 Capital is based right here, just outside of Philadelphia in Conshohocken, PA. I know that you're local. I know that 76 Capital is really an emerging venture capital firm. And I just kind of want to hear more about your background, if you don't mind, as well as how you ended up at 76 Capital in the first place.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a South Jersey kid. I grew up in Voorhees. I went to Eastern High School. And then after Eastern, I went on to LaSalle University, where I was lucky enough to play baseball there. It was a great 4 years. I met the best people I'll ever meet. I learned so much through playing baseball, through the trials and tribulations, different injuries, the different things that happen. And then just the time management skills you learn as a college athlete. It was the best experience I could have ever had. And I parlayed that into a great job at a college at Independence Blue Cross, working in corporate finance. And it was an unbelievable start to my career. I got to work with some amazing people that really were there to help guide me and teach me everything I need to know about the corporate world and then just the world in general. So did a lot of growing up right after college at that type of environment. And then I was lucky enough to, found out about 76 Capital, I guess it was February of last year. And I, kind of started the interview process. I wasn't really actively looking. And then I kind of came across this and I said, I wanted something that I was going to go to work every day and be extremely passionate about, just like I was with baseball. I think that's something that we always talk about is the parallels of sports and business. And I think that's kind of what I was looking for. So I took the leap of faith of leaving a very safe and well-paying job at IBC for a career I really had no idea what it was about. And it was the best decision I've ever made. And, I've been at 76 for a year and a half now as the chief of staff. And I get to do a little bit of everything, which is exactly what I wanted to do at this point in my career. So whether that's marketing, whether that's investments, general strategy, I get to see all the business. I get to make an impact. And it's been awesome to be able to do that and do it with some great people.
That's fantastic, James. And, if you could kind of dive deeper into the world of 76 Capital for our listeners, maybe give them an idea of what your firm does day to day. I've read multiple articles surrounding specific advisory and consultation services offered, but what is it really like working in such a dynamic, fast-paced landscape?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll start. So there's two lines of businesses under 76 Capital's umbrella. So 76 Capital, which is, we're really a venture capital fund that invests in early stage sports tech startups. And sports tech to us really means eSports, sports betting, and general sports tech. And just like you said, Brian, those types of industries are the ones that are thriving right now. So obviously at first when, sports went away, sports betting, it's like, what is going to happen with our companies in the space? That's the majority of our portfolio right now is sports betting. So obviously there was some worry what was going to happen, but because our whole mantra is to invest in smart and nice people. And the reason we say that is because when we invest in a startup, we are working with them every step along the way to get to where we want to get to. So whether they want to IPO, whether they want to, kind of just become big on their own, whether they want to get bought out very early on, whatever they want to do, we're going to help them get there using our network, using our expertise, using whatever we can do. So because of that kind of methodology and the mentality, we find the best entrepreneurs out there. So, even when sports betting went away, we weren't worried because we had these awesome entrepreneurs that are going to be successful. So it's been really cool to see, especially in sports betting, again, because people were so down on it, to see the growth and the rise of sports betting over the past 2 months. You've seen stocks like DraftKings and Penn National skyrocket. Penn National is up over 100%. Like it is like shooting up there. And all it does is show that there's an interest and passion for sports betting. Same thing with esports. During the first few months of COVID, that's what everybody was doing. Twitch was seeing record numbers. You had a guy like Big Cat from Barstool playing a game that's 6 years old. We're getting 160,000 people watching him. mean, 160,000 concurrent viewers watching a 32-year-old man play a 6-year-old video game is absolutely absurd. But it shows the mentality of the consumers these days. We just want to watch something. We want to be part of a community. And when we don't have the ability to do that in person, esports is that other way to go. So it's been really fun to kind of see the growth of our companies during this time, and excited to see them continue to innovate as sports change now.
Yeah, James, and if you don't mind shedding some light on the Philadelphia market, it appears that 76 Capital has positioned itself in one of the top emerging esports markets here in the United States, if not really globally. If you just take a ride right now down Broad Street in South Philadelphia, in fact, you'll see the construction of a brand new $50 million arena dubbed the Fusion Arena that is essentially a spot for esports fans alike to come out and enjoy esports here in the future. I mean, your firm is positioned at the perfect location in somewhat of the perfect time. I mean, how exciting is that for you, the chief of staff right now?
It's amazing. And look, video games have been a big part of my life. I was fairly socially awkward as a kid. So video games are kind of like, that was my release. That was my way to communicate with people and connect when I wasn't playing baseball. And it's something I've taken with me since then. I mean, even in college, that was what we did. We just played video games when we didn't have practice. We couldn't go out. It was playing video games. And video games are so special because it's a great equalizer. I mean, you can have the star quarterback of a football team be best friends with a kid who's never touched a football in his life because they both want to play Fortnite together. They want to play Call of Duty together. And the kid who's never touched a football is the best Call of Duty player at that school. And that's why they're best friends. And they play together every night. There's not really many other things that bring people together in a unique way like that. And I think that's my favorite thing about esports is the accessibility. I mean, there's ways to give anybody a chance to play at the highest of levels of esports. And you don't need the physical attributes that you need for traditional sports. So to see Philadelphia kind of becoming the East Coast hub of esports has been awesome. And we're right in the middle of that because we invested in Nerd Street Gamers, which is a local company. They're based out of Philadelphia.
Okay.
We were the very first investors in them. And we've seen them go from a little backyard Philadelphia company in Northern Liberties to now being one of the biggest esports players in the country. And they're going to have a huge piece of everything that's going to happen with esports these next few years and months. I mean, they're launching across the country in different Five Below stores right now.
Really cool.
They're working with the Fusion on different practice arenas, things like that. They really just help bring accessibility and infrastructure to anybody. So it's really it's democratizing esports, which needs to be done because right now people are still unsure of how to get into the space. And I think that the Fusion Arena in Philly is another way to kind of bring that together where, I'm pretty sure we've seen each other at tailgates before and things like that for the Eagles, but like nobody's done that for esports. There hasn't been an avenue for anybody to go do that for esports, but the Fusion Arena will give that opportunity to people and show people that esports is more than just people playing video games. It is a competitive sport. It is exciting to watch. And the fans of esports are some of the most rabid fans I've ever seen. I went to the Overwatch finals, I guess it was a year ago, and Wells Fargo Center was completely sold out. The line was all the way back to Citizens Bank Park. And those fans were going crazy from before it even started to the very, very finish. And it was really cool to see this new type of sport that people are just enthralled by. And it's not your typical sports fan, which is great. So this is really for everybody. And I think that Philadelphia making itself this hub of esports is going to bode well for the future of innovation in the space.
And that kind of brings me to my next question. It seems like 76 Capital has been able to leverage existing relationships to get into this esports space. I saw your advisory board, and I was really impressed with their overall experience, past and present. But how has your group continued to educate itself in really a space that is constantly evolving?
Yeah, absolutely. So for 76 Capital Advisory, so that's the other side of our business that we just launched about a month ago. And it's an opportunity for us to use our network and for the people that we work with to use their expertise to help, whether it's leagues and teams, whether it's startups, whether it's any company that's looking to grow their business through sports, to help them do so and execute on that. So for our esports practice, it's really good for us because our president, Dan Bravado, has been in esports for a long time, but he's also worked in traditional sports for a long time. So he's got a unique background where he totally understands how a traditional team should be, planning to be successful. So he's seen that. He's seen that with Manchester City. He's seen that with other, the LA Rams, I believe. So I think Dan and his partner, Chris, who's also part of the advisory team, they've kind of been together for a long time and working together on these projects. So they bring a wealth of experience in esports and traditional sports. So not only have these guys been in the space and have seen traditional sports as well, but they are huge gamers themselves, which really helps on the different types of calls when we're planning for these teams, because you can speak a language that sometimes the other people don't even know, but they're like, hey, these guys know what they're talking about because they're playing it themselves or doing it themselves, and then they know what we need to do to be successful. So it's great to have those types of guys on the esports side. I like to help out a lot on the esports side with advisory too, because again, it's a big passion of mine. But the sports betting side, we have Evan Davis, who's the managing partner practice leader there. He's awesome. He's done a lot, especially in the Philadelphia space. He helped build Rivers Casino, and he's killing it on the sports betting side. And then Mike Schreiber, who's a general partner at 76 Capital as well. He's leading the media side of our advisory business, and he's had experience with Cheddar, and he helped launch Hulu, and he really had his career built out at NBC Universal and Comcast. So we have a really great team, really good people that really just want to help companies grow through using sports. So it's been a lot of fun to kind of help launch that business, and it's going to really do a lot of good for companies out there looking to grow through sports.
Let's talk about sports betting. The past 4 to 5 months have been absolutely insane. In the past couple of weeks, there have been an influx of sports with the NBA, MLB, NHL, MLS, all kind of taking shape and coming back to the limelight. But before that, the only live sports were really the Bundesliga in Germany and Belarusian Soccer League. So how does the new side of your business plan in such an uncertain time? And the second part of my question is, how does an advisory board plan when in reality, a lot of these sports organizations and leagues don't know what next week looks like?
It's really interesting, and it's a question that I get asked a lot. And the way I like to respond is that I don't think we're going to have any issues going forward, because I think what's going to happen now is that COVID in a weird way is a good thing for sports, because this is the first time anybody's had to think about what it would be like with no sports and the different precautions you'd have to take to make sure that people are healthy, not only players, it's also the fans. If fans go back, it's the coaches, it's everybody, the personnel, everybody that's on that team. So now we've gone through every step to make sure that these games can get played. I mean, the fact that basketball and hockey and baseball are all being played right now, and every single sport, the fact that any sports are going on right now is insane. Yeah. But what it goes to show you is the innovation had to happen out of need. Everybody kind of had to go to the drawing board and figure something out quickly. And they were able to do that through technology. So now that we have this type of technology, now that we know what works, and now that we have data, I mean, data runs everything and drives everything. So we have this now. So hopefully COVID's done in a few months and not a few years. But who knows what's going to happen? But now we're prepared for whatever happens next. So the worst is hopefully behind us. We've kind of gone through the period without sports betting. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said earlier, sports betting is bigger than ever, because people that aren't at these games, that aren't with their friends and family watching these games, they still want a way to kind of feel like they're engaged. And I think sports betting is that perfect way to do that. Whereas, I may never watch a Suns Mavericks game, but all of a sudden I have over 34.5 points for Devin Booker. I'm watching every single second of that game. So It's a way to make any game be really exciting for a fan. And I think right now, during this weird March Madness of all sports that we're dealing with, it's really awesome to be able to bet. So I think a lot of people are finding it as an exciting way to kind of stay engaged and watch more games than usual. And, it's also a great time to be a bettor, because these different sports books are offering crazy deals to get it for their user acquisition costs. I mean, you can go for, I think it's Fox Bet, maybe. You can get $1,000 free bet, basically, if you put $1,000 up. So, yeah. I mean, imagine getting a free $1,000. It's insane. I mean, now it's like a free bet that you can only use in the app, but that's still money you can use to win money. It's insane. So I think you'll see a lot of new users in the sports betting space. I think you'll see a lot of innovation in the sports betting space as a result of this, because now it's not just about the bets. It's about how you can share those bets with your friends. It's about how you can make it social and make it really that community environment within sports betting. So I think it's going to be really exciting to see what happens in the future. And the other exciting part of that too was the media side. So I think you've probably started to hear a lot more on different broadcasts and seen it. I mean, the XFL was really one of the first leagues to put
beat me to it. Yep.
Well, rest in peace to the original, or the not original, the second version of the XFL. But hopefully the third one is I actually like the XFL. So hopefully they're able to revive it again and make it successful. But it was really cool to hear them talk about the lines openly, to have the lines displayed on the screen.
I agree.
And that's kind of what we see as the future of sports, where, look, you may not want to have that on your traditional broadcast. Okay, that's fine. But you're going to want to have a separate channel or a separate version of that broadcast that has those lines, because a lot of people are interested in that. So I think you'll start to see a lot more of that. I think you saw the Barstool and Penn National deal, where Barstool, really their entire thing is betting. I mean, and that's their audience is a bunch of bettors, and they're capitalizing on that, because
that was Dave Portnoy from the start, right? A sports gambler.
Exactly. And it's like, and his whole thing was with newspapers, he put the lines in there, he put betting tips, because it was for the common man. Because the common man was the one that would go bet with their bookie. I mean, now the common man is everybody, because everybody can bet. So they're taking they know their audience, they're taking the content and the people and the personalities they have, and they're making betting fun. Now, on the flip side, we have a company called vsan, and vsan is a 24/7 sports betting network. We liken it to the CNBC of sports betting, where it's nonstop news, it's nonstop content, and it's look, Barstool I'm a huge Barstool guy. They're hilarious. It's different. vsan is for, if you want to really learn how to bet, if you want to learn how to watch a game differently and see the way you can kind of guess the way the lines move, vsan's for you. And it's so cool, because before I started at 76 Capital, my sports betting knowledge was limited. So when I first started, I started watching vsan, and here, not only are these guys interesting and funny, and they're very good at educating people, but I started being able to watch a game and literally know how the line was going to shift. And look, I'm not an expert by any means, but I was like, that's a base hit in the bottom of the second inning. Here, this line is going to shift. There's a half run on the run line is going to shift now.
Sure.
And it would be cool to be able to see that happen live, because in-play betting is really the exciting piece now. And I think in-play betting, especially during this time when we're all sitting at home, is what's fun. Again, like if the Phillies are down 4 runs in the bottom of the ninth, I think back to last year when I was at the game where Bryce Harper hit a walk-off grand slam.
Were you there at the game?
I was there at the game,
wow.
And I was going to put a bet on them going into the ninth inning just for the heck of it. Yeah. They were like plus like 4,500, because they were down by 5 or 6, whatever it was. They didn't put the bet in. The next thing you know, Bryce Harper's sprinting around the base pass, and I was like, "Wow, I really wish I put a few dollars on that." But look, it's one of those things, like, you can make anything exciting. Like, I was at a game in Pittsburgh last year by myself because I was there for work. I just placed a bet every single inning, and I stayed the entire game, and I lost my bet on the very last play. But I stayed an entire game by myself without any star players playing, no Christian Yelich, no Josh Bell. It was like I was watching a minor league baseball game almost. And then I stayed the whole game, and it was the most fun I've had at a baseball game in a long time.
And I hate to interject, because this is the second time I've mentioned it on the S.B.R. podcast, but how beautiful is that stadium?
PNC Park is unbelievable, man. It is like, I love Pittsburgh, and because every time I've been there, I've been right around that stadium, and it is so cool. It is such a fun little downtown, and Pittsburgh's very underrated.
Yep. I mean, I went to school there for 4 years, so I know very well. James, that's great. And let me ask you something here, because obviously there's the COVID component now, which I've mentioned 3 times, but looking forward to next year, 2021 season, hopefully fans are back. Do you think that stadiums, physical betting might eventually be adopted? Is that a potential component of sports gambling that we might see in stadium?
Yeah. And actually, as of, I believe it was early August, that actually happened. So in Washington, D.C., they had the first sportsbook open inside a stadium. So it's happening. Okay. The Broncos signed a deal with FanDuel as well earlier this year, and they're planning on doing the same thing. I mean, I think it's going to really change the game inside the stadiums, because I think a lot of people, they have the different bars within stadiums. They have those different places to go hang out. But if you put a real sports book, because people love that sports book feel, but they don't like having to drive to a casino sometimes. But if they can go kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and go to a game, be in that environment and atmosphere, but also get to be at a sports book or like sit there and watch it and order drinks, whatever it is, it's going to be a huge game changer. I mean, it's a really cool opportunity. I think that, it's always been crazy to me that sports that leagues haven't done that. Obviously there's rules prohibiting that, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to be really exciting. And I think you're going to continue to see this rise of bettors. I mean, I know that every single person I know is interested in betting now, or they can have a conversation about it, because once you understand how it works, it's really exciting.
And it's every single person, it's not just the people who grew up watching sports or playing sports, right?
And because you can bet on anything now. I mean, you look at the European model. Europeans bet on literally politics, reality TV, I mean,
Sure.
random things. And because there's betting shops on every corner. So, will the U.S. get to that in the next year? No. But in the next 10 to 15, I think you'll start to see that, especially because mobile betting is so prevalent here. It's going to be, it's going to be a little bit different because of that, but it's also better for the consumer because you can bet from anywhere and it doesn't affect you at all. It's, it's affecting the different sports books and the physical sports, really the physical sports books is who gets the negative effect there, but it really doesn't matter to the consumer.
Well, actually, let's talk about Europe for a second, because I think in the past, especially when it comes to physical sports play, Europe kind of draws inspiration from the United States. We have multiple leagues. Traditionally in Europe, maybe there's just a soccer league or a handball league or a hockey league. However, the United States kind of being the sports capital of the world, oftentimes our competitions, they draw inspiration from. That being said, we're starting to draw inspiration from sports gambling from Europe, right? They Bet365. I don't know if you can probably name a couple other large European-based companies. Are you guys kind of doing the same thing? Do you feel that you're studying the European market or maybe past historical trends to get an idea looking forward?
Absolutely. It's something that we look at a lot, especially as these European companies are starting to penetrate the U.S. market and trying to look. They can't come into the U.S. market the same way they've attacked the European market.
Sure.
It's really they're trying to align themselves with U.S. companies that have been able to be somewhat successful here, and then kind of use their capital, use their brand name to really help further the brand. Like I said earlier, the user acquisition costs for sports betting are insane right now. So it's not easy to start a sports book because you have to really dish out a lot of cash just to get people to use your platform. And then it's what's your retention objective? Is it to offer really good odds? Is it to, is it to the PointsBet? Their big thing at first was to pay out early or let you, cash out early. Like that was very unique at the time, but now it's pretty common. So it's really trying to find out what's next, what's going to be innovative. And that's something that we look at every day. I mean, we're lucky to see over 150 companies a month across the different sports tech spaces. But we're always looking for the next big thing and the next, great entrepreneur. So you can always email us, visit our website at 76capital.com and submit your company because we'd love to see it. And there's so many ideas out there, so many great thinkers. And it's really cool to get the opportunity to see some of these before they become huge. Like I know we have some things that'll be announced the next few weeks that are going to blow people's minds. And
exciting.
It's one of those things where I step back and I'm like, wow, this is what I get to do for a living. And especially when it's the stuff that I was talking about in my cubicle at my old job before, which was sports. And now it's my job. So like anything I do and watch regarding sports is technically work. So it's pretty cool to be able to say that.
That's great. And I hate to jump back to esports, but one thing, when we're talking about Europe, we're talking about traditionally soccer. I have noticed in the United States that Major League Soccer has taken a huge leap surrounding esports. In fact, when it comes to esports, I think Major League Soccer has put together, representatives for each one of their clubs potentially quicker than any other sports league in the United States. I might be wrong in saying that, but have you noticed the same trend? Kind of the MLS in some respects starting to take the reins or trying to when it comes to esports.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember as a kid, I used to watch Madden on ESPN2. They used to have the Madden Bowl every year. And that was the first time I really saw like competitive gaming on a national scale. I remember thinking that was the coolest thing in the world. I was like, wow, I wish I could do that one day. Fast forward to now, I mean, you have the NBA 2K League, which it's a little bit different because it's not necessarily a representative. It's an actual team that they draft, and it has different branding than the NBA clubs. But the MLS has been really interesting because I think soccer is such a global sport. It's the most popular sports game in the world, which is FIFA. And I think every single soccer player, and I'm obviously generalizing here, but I'm pretty sure they all play FIFA. Like it is just like a very easy to play game, very fun game. It's fun to watch. So I think the MLS really saw an opportunity to further their reach because they've been growing so quickly. They've been doing a great job of kind of getting a new fan base and expanding different cities and getting better players to come over from Europe. So EMLS has really been that opportunity to kind of complement that and add this other virtual component that's going to continue to drive new fans, where if you're a fan of the Union's MLS team or EMLS team, you're going to become a fan of the Union too.
Sure.
And that's what they're looking to do. And that's what's so special about video games and esports is that it does bring in different audience. It may make a kid who's never been interested in sports before all of a sudden love FIFA, love soccer because he's really good at FIFA, or she. So I should say, make sure he and she, anybody. So it's really cool. And again, that accessibility aspect of it. But I think that's the MLS. That's what their thought process is. And they've done a great job with it. I was actually at their event that they held pre-COVID in, I think it was January or February, when Jay Ajayi was the representative, and it was his first game with the union. So it was pretty cool to go see that type of event live. Again, the fans are awesome. Watching these athletes play on stage is exciting as hell. I mean, the games that has the same feel late in a match as a traditional soccer game would.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see the way they've been able to be successful with it.
Now let's jump to baseball. I would assume, since you're a former collegiate pitcher at LaSalle University, that baseball is your favorite sport. So you might be able to add a little bit of color here. But what does Major League Baseball need to do in order to claim its stake really in the eSports landscape? I'd imagine that this would be a great opportunity for MLB to compete with the likes of the NFL, NBA, and now even the emerging leagues such as MLS.
Sure, yeah. It's one of those things where the game, it really needs to be made the right way for competitive gaming. Now, MLB The Show, so there's only one baseball game out that's like an actual simulation style akin to like Madden or 2K. And that's MLB The Show. So MLB The Show is it's probably the best like pure sports game out there, because they do such a great job of replicating the players, the way they play, their motions, and then just the physics of the game are really, really impressive. So it's a great game. And, the two problems from a competitive standpoint are the games take a long time, just like I think is the main issue with everybody for baseball. Mm-hmm. And two, it can really only be one person on each team, whereas like 2K, you have multiple players that you're playing against. And NHL, you have multiple players on each team that you really can draft a team. So for the show, that's really the tough part, is getting people to want to watch a 9-inning game. Again, because they take so long. But what the MLB did actually, right at the beginning of COVID, when things got shut down officially, they had a players tournament, which got a lot of really positive reviews. So they had a player from each team play as their respective team, and MLB The Show against other MLB players. And I think that's the type of stuff that's really cool, because not only do you get to see these guys, the players' skills on a PS4, but their fans get to see their interactions. They get to see kind of a little bit behind the scenes, which I think is why athletes love streaming on Twitch or love playing games for their fans, because it's another way to connect. Sure. And you're not just talking to one person, which is obviously time-consuming when everybody wants to talk to you. You're speaking to every single person that wants to talk to you. So like Bryce Harper streams on Twitch like almost every day, not during the season, but when he was in the off-season. And, that's his way of communicating with his fans, and they get to know him better. And it creates that unique relationship that, again, most people don't get to have with athletes. So it's been really cool to see the way athletes have taken on esports and streaming, and they're really leading the charge, I have to say. I mean, it's been so much fun to work with some of these guys and see how much they just love gaming. I mean, some of them love it more than their actual sport.
Arguably, yeah. I'd agree. Yeah.
Which must be nice to have a passion that big when you're making millions of dollars, and you're like, you know what? I'm so good at Call of Duty. So it must be nice to be good at everything. I'll put it that way.
Exactly. And, one thing that's kind of cool, we talked about like globalization here when it comes to sports across the pond and here in the United States. I think one thing that's interesting that our conversation is kind of leading to is the fact that esports can help these sports organizations grow worldwide. I know baseball has had trouble, penetrating the European markets. Soccer, here Major League Soccer might have trouble penetrating the European markets, but vice versa. If they're played online and they have these large esports gatherings, individuals from all around the world can learn more about the league, the teams, the players. I mean, wouldn't you say that's kind of potentially a great factor of this esports?
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's important for a lot of teams to associate themselves with esports teams. And I think you'll start to see a lot more of that going forward. But the other thing with that globalization of sports and esports is really, again, that athlete component and entertainer component, where, again, Bryce Harper, he may be really good at Fortnite and he may be really fun to watch. So all of a sudden, these people from Europe that have never heard of Bryce Harper, never even heard of the Phillies, they're watching this guy, they're learning more about him, and they're like, you know what? I'm going to start watching baseball. I'm going to start watching Bryce Harper. I'm a Bryce Harper fan because of what they saw on Twitch. All of a sudden now you have this new audience of people that never even thought of baseball, they never even thought of Bryce Harper, and now they're his biggest fans because they love the way he plays Fortnite. So I think that it's another opportunity to expand the different personalities of athletes from the U.S. side. And also, like you said, from the gaming perspective, like, the EMLS and the 2K League specifically, I think has done a really good job because they actually have expanded outside the U.S. I believe it's China, and then, I think China for now, which is awesome. I mean, they have a team in Shanghai that's playing against the Sixers eSports team. I mean, it's crazy. So, how hard is that to do for a traditional sport league? I mean, the NFL has been trying to do that for years with Canada or England, and they haven't been able to. But the 2K League just threw in a Chinese team there in between seasons. Like, it was in between seasons. They just like, hey, we're launching a new team. I mean, you can't do that in any other sport besides esports because of that digital component. So it's really cool to see the way they're able to do that.
It almost gets to the point where it's like you ask, is it better for the Phillies and, let's just say hypothetically, the Astros to play a game in London, or just to send Bryce Harper, the most popular individual on either team potentially, especially maybe in the esports realm, to London to play in London and save some money if you're Major League Baseball and get the same amount of viewership, right? Like, that's very plausible.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I look back, there's this ESPN commercial, I think it was, of David Ortiz walking into like Japan, and it's like every single person like obsessed with him. And I think that like that's what we kind of, as the world opens back up, but like for baseball specifically, like it always kills me when they talk about Mike Trout and say, half of the world doesn't know who he is because the Angels aren't on TV in a normal time on the East Coast. Mm-hmm. But that dude is the most talented baseball player that I will ever get to watch in my entire lifetime. And he should be known by every single person. So I don't understand why there's not these different caravans of players going to Europe or whatever it is to really showcase what we have. And it doesn't even need to be them playing. Like you said, it could just be them meet and greets and really just kind of sharing or building fields around, whatever country it is. Like there's an opportunity to really grow all these different games that we have in the U.S. To Europe and other places, and really help people out as well.
Yeah, James, and it really is inspirational to anyone really in any field that you've been able to make the leap into a position and field that you're so passionate about. When it comes to the future of 76 Capital and yourself, where do you see this relationship going in the future?
Look, I want to be here for a very long time. My goal is to be a managing partner and be, somebody that gets to be a real decision maker. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. Hopefully in the, it's going to be in the distant future, but hopefully not too distant future. I really see us as becoming just an absolute force in the venture capital world and the sports space, because we blend the two together so seamlessly that I think a lot of people get confused about what we actually do, because we do so much more than just invest in companies, because we help out our companies so much, because we do so much on the social side, and we get our name and message out there. We really just want to help people out. And that's really the goal of ours. And I think that a lot of these bigger firms out there that may be trying to mimic a little bit of what we're doing, or really try to, say they invest in sports specifically, they may have more capital than us, they may have more people than us, but they're not going to work as hard for the companies as us. So I think that that's going to bode well for us as we continue to grow. And having the right people, having the right mindset, and having the right, really the way to execute is all that matters to us. And I think that's what's going to make us successful. And, we're raising a new fund right now to continue to invest in this sports tech space. And I think the first fund for us is really a prove it fund and saying, hey, sports tech is the future. I think that we've all kind of seen that sports tech is the future, especially during COVID. And now it's the time to maximize that and raise this fund and continue to invest in awesome companies and entrepreneurs.
Well, that's great, James. And, thank you so much for joining the S.B.R. podcast today. I can say that based off my conversation with you, 76 Capital is really lucky to have you. You're very passionate about the space. And, I want to wish you the best of luck here in the future.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to continuing to listen to yours and hopefully get some other people from 76 on here as well.
That'd be fantastic. Well, thanks, James.
Thanks for having me, man.
Once again, that was James Santore, the Chief of Staff at 76 Capital. If you enjoyed today's episode of the S.B.R. podcast, please follow me on Twitter at SBR_podcast. I'm also on Instagram at the same handle, SBR_podcast. And if you feel the need to provide any further feedback, please visit www.sportsbusinessreview.com, the official home of the SBR podcast. Once again, my name is Brian McDonough, and stay safe, everyone.